what I want to do this afternoon, particularly for the people that are going to their first show, is give you some help to unravel things, because licensing, it's daunting. Everyone's got their experiences. There are all these words buzzing around. You know, license agreement, you know, 30 pages of gobbledygook. How do you get the sort of knowledge and know-how to be able to start cracking things yourself? You're not in a position to run off and see lawyers or engage lawyers to help you. So it's a little bit of self-help here. It's a breeze. Okay, so first I'm going to start by telling you a story. Now, more than half our life in the office is bound up with disputes. It's just the way of it. We're lawyers. People come to us when there is a problem. So many problems could have been prevented had people taken legal advice, and there's reasons why they don't. But I want to start off by telling you a story in your industry of Sue Deacon, poor woman. So she's an artist and she wants to license her work. Card racks are interested and they commission her. So between 2002 and 2007, that's over 5 years, she produces 200 pieces of artwork which they go on and use. There's not a written agreement between them, okay? So the only thing in writing is Sue's invoices, which say at the bottom what the license is for. So for example, it might say £175 for 3-year license for cards only. Okay, so towards the end of 2007, they fall out. Sue writes a note saying she's terminating the license. Card racks don't agree. They're in a massive legal dispute that goes absolutely ballistic. Even for us, it was a very heavy thing. 86 pages of legal judgment, 65 points of facts and law. What I've given you is a very basic summary. What Sue says is, you haven't paid me, so I'm terminating the license. I want all the artwork back, and I want you to pay me the money you haven't paid me. At the end of all this, what is decided is that she hasn't got any specific payment terms. She is entitled to payment, but we don't know when. She isn't entitled to stop them using her work while they have a license, so long as they pay her whenever. And for the time that the license runs, they can hang on to her artwork. Now, you might think, oh, but if you'd have given me that story, I would have said, well, that's what the judge is going to decide. That's the solution. But this is after nearly 1.5 years of legal wrangle and tens of thousands of pounds spent on the process. It isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. And what I want to reassure you is that it is quite easy to get a grip, get some basics, you know, licensing fundamentals in your head, so you can start negotiating licenses yourself and not fall into any errors. We see licensing disputes. People come to us with signed licenses. Maybe they've got it from the other side, and they've just signed it, haven't really understood it, but they think, oh, it must be all right. It says, you know, 10% license in there, and they think, oh, yeah, that's okay. They haven't realised that there are no minimums, which Kelvin talked about, so no sales have been made, so you're entitled to absolutely zippo. They think, some people think that licensing is, you know, for bigger clients, but it's not. If you're going to do a license, do it properly, or it could end up costing you more money. So what I do, as I said, what I want to do very briefly is just break it down so you can have an approach. So clue yourself up. I'm not going to repeat things that have already been said, but licensing is permission. Copyright, intellectual property rights are property rights, and that's the same as bricks and mortar, as Kelvin said. Just because you can't necessarily put your hand on them, it doesn't mean that they're not a property right. So you can sell intellectual property, lawyers call that assignment. You don't want to do that. That's giving away all your rights, or you want to license. And license is akin to rental. And you know that if you were renting your flat, you would have a lot of conditions attached to that. You would be saying how long someone could stay there, how much rent they could pay you, what good care they needed to take of your property while they were at it. That's exactly what a license is. It's just permission to use the property. So when, as I say, people and people that are buying in your property, taking a license, if you like, if they're sophisticated, as many of them are, they may present you with a very long document, pages and pages, and in that document is going to be a jumble of commercial terms and legal terms. Okay, but before you get to that document, and before you see anybody, a lawyer or anything, about concluding a document, what you need to know is, do I have a deal here? Is there something that we can do together that's worth pursuing? So what I've set out here is my top 4 commercial things to discuss, because if you discuss these things and you're in agreement how to go forward on these, you've got the core of the deal. So first of all, what exactly is it that you've got to license, and in what categories, and through what sales channels? So that's for you to decide. This work may already exist, or it may not exist, and it's something that you're going to create over the term of the license. But you do need to be very specific and define what it is. You need to discuss whether the license is going to be exclusive or non-exclusive. Non-exclusive is not really a flyer. It's going to be exclusive. And what that means is that nobody else in the defined category for the particular thing is going to be allowed to do this. So it's very, very important, as Kelvin says, when you are going into an exclusive license, that you agree the minimum sales that have to be made. Because if you don't, you're basically saying to someone, here you go off, use the stuff, but I don't mind how many you sell. They may in fact do nothing at all. They may just sign the license and put it away. And I've had up-teen instances of people coming to me over the years with licenses that they've signed without checking that all-important thing. The other thing is territory. So where is this going to be sold? UK, Europe, further afield. It's very important when you're setting the royalties that you know what the territories are. Now, something that gets people rather exercised is, how long should the license be? And I think I always advise that you can be quite flexible on this, particularly if you're a new property, because it doesn't really matter as long as the license is performing. As long as you're getting the minimum sales that you thought you were going to get, it doesn't really matter how long. The important thing is that if you're not getting the sales, then you're able to get out of it quickly. So those are my top 10 things. If you've agreed on those things, you may have a deal. And at that point, it's worth looking at the other things, which I call the legal terms. Now, these, as I say, these are not things that are generally negotiated. At the point that you have come to agreements on the commercial terms, either you will be presented with one of these 30-page documents, or you will have gone to a lawyer who will have prepared something appropriate for you to present. It's only worth looking at that and getting into these things once you have the deal. And again, this isn't all the things, but I've set out some of my top things to look for. First of all, if things aren't going well, you need to get out quickly and cleanly. So you're going to have in there termination for failure to perform, or termination for failure to meet sort of reasonable quality standards. In this legal agreement, there's going to be payment terms. So apart from stating the royalty, when are you going to get it? How is the licensee going to account to you for the sales that have been made? You might ask, well, how will I know if the information I'm getting is correct? Well, it's perfectly standard to have in an agreement rights of audit, which you can use if you suspect that you're not being told the whole truth. Usually, if an agreement is well drafted, you'll be getting enough detail in your royalty statements to work out whether you're being told the truth, because in all fairness, once we start going into audits, the relationship is sort of breaking down. But there is standard mechanisms so you can know what's been sold. You'll have to, in legal terms, there'll be all sorts of things about you warranting that it's your original work, it's not copied from anywhere else, and that's, if that's not the case, you're going to be liable. So if you're going into the world of licensing, although I'm sure you haven't copied, you can still be accused of all sorts of things unfairly. So it might be useful to look at getting some professional indemnity insurance. And then you'll also see in these legal terms that procedures about how to resolve disputes, and how that's done, and the best thing for you will depend whether it's UK, whether it's UK Europe, or whether it's anywhere else in the world. Now, I don't want to sort of go into all the sort of the legal terms. The important thing is that, as I say, to separate these and not worry about them until you've got an actual deal. That's, I think, I don't know, where's my... Oh yeah, I don't need to say too much about this because Kelvin said quite a lot. You can, if you like, decide, not for me, I'm going to get a licensing agent, in which case you have an agent that goes out, gets you all the deals, sorts out the contract, which still will be you'll be involved in, but you'll just be signing on the line so you can relax. But they take quite a chunk of commission. I was quite sort of encouraged to see up to 35%, because I've seen more than that. I've seen nearly 50. As I say, the one point I did want to say is that it's not, in my experience, for unknown artists to get an agent on board. You usually, they have to, see the money, know that they can really shift a lot. But the same thing, the important thing is, if you do have an agent, make sure there's a minimum guarantee and make sure you can get out if that's not fulfilled. Those are just the most crucial points. And that's it. Okay, thank you.